So welcome to Recovering the Way. And I see a few people already starting to do the ringing of our gong, right? So let's start. Relaxing the hands, the shoulders, the feet. And just a little question here. Before we start doing the ringing of this gong, I notice myself taking in a nice big breath and kind of giving an exhale and a sigh, like, ah. Anyone else do that?
Perhaps, but I didn't notice.
Ah. Wow.
But that's the difference between a beginner and a teacher, I guess.
Okay. So there's a saying in the Tao Te Ching, which I'll quote from time to time, amongst other things, that says, 30 spokes share the wheel's hub. But it's the empty space in the center that gives the wheel its usefulness. And it's like, that is just so simple to comprehend that it gives a little bit of a structure to this thing which is really highly ineffable. So even though we can't necessarily describe what's going on, we can kind of point to certain things that start to happen. So Qigong is a physical practice, it's a mental practice, and it is a spiritual practice. And the 12-step recovery paradigm is also, well, it's a spiritual practice, and it's a mental practice, and a lot of people can comprehend that, and then we'll say, but is it a physical practice? Well, it is. Because when we take the time, 1 hour a day, to stop everything else that we're doing, and either we do a little meditation or we do some prayer, or we'll go to a meeting and we sit down, well, we're engaging the parasympathetic. We're going into a reflective state, and we're starting to empty out that fullness. So this is a physical as well as mental, spiritual, so we can put a little bit, and don't do too much for yourself, but this is a real good twist for the spine. And probably a lot of us are not doing our regular gym routine, maybe a regular exercise routine, and becoming a little more still. So let's put a little bit of swing into it. And let the hands be the clappers. And we'll do this another 30 seconds or so. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and come to a rest. And before we move on, take a moment and notice where the shoulders are. Are they hiked up? And if they are, relax them. Are they pulled forward? And if they are, see where you can get to balance them. If they're back, see if you can bring them toward the center. Anyone here ever drive a standard car when they were younger? You know what it's like when you shift a car and you look around for that neutral spot, right? So let's look around for neutral. Let the shoulders hang. And as we do that, let's drop our tail as if we had that long dinosaur's tail. Drop the tail, and you may notice the pelvis tilting forward a little bit. And if you notice that, see if you can encourage it a little. Actually, this is really good exercise. What happens when we tilt the pelvis forward is that the knees have a tendency to unlock. So we're no longer using the knees as transmission point. We're not putting bone on bone and joint on joint, but we're actually using the muscles. So we're using the muscles of the thigh, the anterior and posterior. And this is known as the horse stance. Check down, put your feet in a comfortable position. Comfortable. Let's see what you can do to allow your feet to press on the floor all the way. And trace around from the outsides of the foot in your mind's eye to the heel, to the ball of the foot, to the toes, and just spend a moment or two acquainting yourself with the earth. Now this is exercise because we're tilted in a little bit, knees relaxed a little bit. Earth, still, quiet, docile. And the head's going to rise up. Rise up as if through the ceiling, as if through the sky, into the clouds. So recovering the way of Qigong uses the paradigm of yin and yang of Chinese medicine. And what we're going to do is we're going to act as a bellows between heaven and earth, and we're going to do our just moving, coming up and down. And if you're getting tired with the legs, you don't have to stay that way. You can come and go from a locked position back toward that kind of knee bent position. You can sit down. It's really just experiencing it for a little while. Don't castigate yourself if you're not able to do it for any length of time. So another verse in the Tao talks about earth being solid and reportable, and the sky being open and clear. And what is in between is like the content of the bellows. That when the bellows opens, naturally the air rushes in. And when it closes, it naturally rushes out. And check your breath. Is your breath following your hand? And if it is, that's great. And if it's not, that's okay too, but see what you can do. So Chinese medicine works diagnosing and treating through patterns. Is it elevated or is it suppressed? Is it moving or is it stagnant? Is it hot or is it cold? And through all of that, there's something that's kind of hidden. Because when we ask the question, what is it? Well, it is us, right? The it is us. So are we hot or cold? Are we stagnant or deficient? Are we stuck inside or out? And it is the observation in Chinese medicine that is the root and branch of change. And this draws a very strong corollary to the recovery paradigm. The recovery paradigm of the 12 steps is also a process of self-observation. Am I resentful? Was I not thinking of something else? Am I thinking that I'm the higher power? Am I using too much force? So both Qigong and recovery share something else very, very much in common. And what they share is that higher power, or that continuum, or that ethereal, or that ineffable thing that we align ourselves with requires that it remain ineffable. It requires that it remain without definition. And we know when we're not there. So both of these are self-diagnostic, self-treating, self-regulating. So we're going to do this 3 more times quietly, and then we're going to move on. So what we're starting to do here is kind of prime a pump. And we're going to continue this by drawing up and then pushing out up top. Drawing up and out and over. So Qigong is a branch of medicine. It is philosophy. It is exercise. It is self-cultivation. And at its heart, it is a social phenomenon because it seeks to unite self with other. And that other may be sentient, that other may be someone else, that other may be an awareness of nature, but there's part of this just a realization and a sensation that there's more. There's more than meets the eye. And I will tell you that in the recovery paradigm, that is one of the first things that people start to realize, is that there is more to their world than they thought. So one of the main causes of disease, again, as we've said many times, is stagnation. And what we're doing here is we're moving stagnation. And a lot of us now are kind of, I don't know if we can say suffering with stagnation, but the engine wants to move and it's still outside. And in Chinese medicine, there's a definition for that. That is called wind on the inside, wind or thunder on the inside. Wind, thunder, the desire to move, the need to move. And on the outside, it is called mountain, stillness. And when thunder is under the mountain, when wind is under the mountain, that is time for, there can be a very explosive result. And we're not looking for an explosive result here. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to manifest a little bit more of a quiescence inside while that mountain is still there. And one of the archetypical images in Taoism for beautiful, serene nature is lake and mountain. And we're going to do cloud hands now. And we're going to start from our right and cross. So lake in the I Ching, lake in Taoism is exemplary of what is called joy. Serene, quiet lake. And the natural accompaniment for lake is land that is higher than the lake. Mountain. So knowing that the situation is such that the mountain is there, the stillness is there, what can I do just for now to manifest lake and stillness, instead of knowing that that wind and that thunder is pushing inside? Well, how can I do that? Well, by rooting and grounding, dropping the tail. Not having a solution for the moment. See, yin can be true stillness. Yin can be true quiet, but it can also be stagnation and turbidity. And a lot of us are into and experiencing stagnation and turbidity. And what we're going to do now, we're going to cross our hands in front, and we're going to reach down through that stagnation and turbidity. We're going to do gathering heaven and earth, and we're going to reach down through the turbid into the rich earth and gather. And then up through past mountain into clear sky, and bathe ourselves with that combination. And if you have issues with the knees, of course, modify. This can be done standing, this can be done seated. And people are starting to experience things now with these Zoom meetings that actually there's some really cool stuff that's happening. People are finding that they can do things their own way, right? They can do things their own way in the privacy of their own home, that they wouldn't be doing anywhere else. I've gone on to some AA Zoom meetings, and there are people from Austria, people from England, people from all over the world. So there's really some very good and cool things that are going to come from all of this. And then reaching up into yang, like what are some of those things that might happen? What are some of those things that might change the consciousness of humanity? And let's stay ahead of the curve, okay? And we're going to do this 3 times quietly and then move on. Great. We're going to turn one side or the other, does not matter. Get our back foot so we can sort of sit on it. We're kind of sitting on the back foot. Front foot is a little lighter. And again, this is exercise, this is work. Hands in front. And when we have the weight on the back, we have somewhere to go. If we don't, we're not going anywhere. So we push forward with that leg, pelvis moving forward, pushing out, and then pulling back. Again, feel the weight on the back. And then feel as that weight shifts in the body. So this is more like a sail. That in a sail, well, the bottom of the mast and the top of the mast, they're not going anywhere. It is the center of the mast that moves. The center of the sail, I should say. So we're probably all familiar with that sensation that we get in our hands of qi. And tune into that. And push out and now down. And pull in and up. We're going to go in a circle here. Push out and pull in. Out. In. Push out the need for all of that to change today. And pulling in the acceptance that, well, today it's going to be okay. Pushing out the need to change. And making myself open and available to those gifts that can come from stillness and quiet. I mean, after all, haven't we all been running around like chickens with their heads cut off for years, going, when is this all going to stop? This is just getting untenable, it's getting crazy. I'm supposed to be in 9 places at one time. I can't respond to all this, I can't do everything. And then it disappears and we go, when's it going to come back? Right? Is it possible? Is it just possible? Like they say in recovery, I was unhappy wherever I was. It was just part of it, not all of it, but unable to be with me. And part of this is that when all of that noise stops, well, if we're not really tuned into it, and we don't have some type of a spiritual, mental, physical practice, the noise of the silence is going to be deafening. And one of the wonderful things that we have in recovering away, in Qigong, in a body-mind practice, is that we have somewhere to go. And I'm so grateful for it. Self-cultivation. What do I need to push out? What do I need to harvest? And the answer may not be intelligible right now. That's quite all right. But I'll bet you dollars to donuts that as we do it, we're experiencing something that is transacting. And we can't really put our hands on it, but we know that it's right. And that is what is called noetic. And it is one of the 4 principles of mysticism that William James adopted, defined in 1904 in the Varieties of Religious Experience, which was a seminal book, an epoch-making, groundbreaking book that shook the world of science and religion. And he said that mysticism has 4 qualities. An ineffable nature, right? And we understood that, we even spoke about that in the beginning, an ineffable nature. And even though it is ineffable, it is noetic, meaning that we know it is something of tremendous value. And now we're going to cross our hands and go to the other side. So what do we have that we can share with other people to get them through? And what is being offered to me, to us, that we can say thank you to? And just tune into that. Isn't this giving us opportunities to interact with people, even though at a distance? Isn't this giving us the opportunity to be there for others, either in a phone call or in a charitable way? Or in volunteering? And hasn't somebody else reached out to help us? And what does that feel like? And when I say, what does it feel like in the feet, in the tail that we've dropped, in the heart, in the hands, in the head, in the shoulders? What does that sensation feel like? And I'll just offer a few possibilities. Does it feel bad or does it feel good? Does it feel positive or does it feel negative? So the recovery paradigm of the 12 steps adopted, bore very heavily from William James. Bill Wilson's white light experience came on through the reading of that book, came on through dealing with others. We're now going to come back to the middle. We're going to drop our hands again. And we're going to do the ringing of the gong again. And this time, I want you to notice, does it feel a little bit different than it did 10 or 15 minutes ago? Can we find that internal center point? As we quiet ourselves down, it can start to make itself apparent. And with me, I start to feel a rush, a sense of opening. And in Chinese medicine, the opening of the channels is concordant with a sense of ease and a sense of flowing. The upper body has large intestine, small intestine, triple burner called the sanjiao, which is responsible for the entire thorax. It has the heart, the pericardium, which is considered an organ in Oriental medicine, and the lung channel. The yin channels, which are the lung, pericardium, and heart, are on the tender inside of the arms, and the yang channels, being the large intestine, small intestine, and sanjiao, run down the back of the forearms and the back of the upper arms. And when we start to feel that qi, well, it makes itself noticeable in the fascia. It makes itself noticeable on the skin level. And I'll then tell you what the channels are in the lower body. In the lower body, the yang channels, which run down the outside and the back, are the gallbladder, which runs from the side of the head down to the little toe, the bladder, which runs kind of close to the spine, down to the side of the foot, and the stomach channel. And the stomach channel runs down right through the eyes. Wouldn't you know that the stomach channel and the eyes have a lot together? You know, when I see it, and the stomach channel is concerned with the here and the now, and it runs down close to the bone, close to the tibia. The yin channels, well, the yin channels run up and down the medial aspect, the inside of the legs, and those are the liver, the spleen, and the kidney. And at another time, we'll get a little bit more into any one of these, because there's so much that can be said. But right now, it's just noticing the whole systemic pins and needles type feeling that we're flushing by expanding capillaries. Starting to have a very effective and thorough lymphatic drainage. We're quieting the amygdala, getting out of the state of the domination of the sympathetic portion of the autonomic nervous system, and asking petitioning, bringing on the parasympathetic. And if you ask someone to do this for you, they couldn't do it better than you are doing it for yourself. Not possible. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I'm going to talk a little bit more, and you can move around and be comfortable if you want for a moment, but I'm going to talk just another moment or two about this interesting notion of a power greater than ourselves, power higher than ourselves. In recovery, we talk about finding our own higher power. And in Taoism, very much it's left undefined. And in the varieties of religious experience, well, what William James said, for the purpose of his book, he's going to call God, or higher power, that which anyone has in their own solitude, their own personal solitude, that they apprehend as the divine. And we're going to do a little exercise that's going to kind of let us experience that. And what we're going to do is bring our hands up under our waist, as if, we can feel that chi in our hand. Have some of that chi. And we're going to cross our body. And looking at our hand, watching the world pass by, we're going to ask ourselves, what is my notion of the Godhead? What is my notion of the divine? And of all that exists, or all that does not exist, what is my notion of the divine? And then when we come out front, we're going to reach for it and grab it.
If you think everyone, while talking, it's just hard to hear. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me, or it's a little hard to hear? Ah.
No, I can hear other people sort of suggesting maybe everybody mute except you.
I got it. Would everyone please mute your phones? So what's my idea of the Godhead? And then when we come front, we grab it. And just notice, and what does it feel like as we bring it in? In the Old Testament, not that I'm endorsing any religion, I'm just using an example. God said to Moses when he saw the burning bush, well, what is the burning bush, right? That is something that glows with its own existence. And then he heard God say, take off your shoes, for this is holy ground. And for a long time I wondered about that one. Was he saying, don't drag your shoes all over my nice clean earth? have some respect. I mean, why would he tell him to take off his shoes? Oh, because we're coming in contact with yin, with earth. Solid. And the burning bush, well, yang. The existence of energy not consuming. So just spend the time. We're going to do this one now quietly. And you experience, and if you want to self-talk or think, and let's just put our hands in the navels for a moment. So going back to that old book, and William James had chapter after chapter after chapter saying, well, in the end, we're going to talk about mysticism. In the end, we're going to talk about mysticism. And the book is a tome. It's about 600 pages, and it's so arcane, but it's wonderful. And I said that he said mystic experiences have 4 main attributes. One is the ineffability. Got that. You got that in Qigong. You got that in mind-body. You got that in recovery. Noetic. That even though it can't be described, it is extremely important. Got that. And the third aspect is that it is temporary. That it does not exist in the light of day all the time. It comes and it goes. And as it should be. Because one who is in a mystic state all the time probably will get hit by a bus and probably will be in an institution. Okay? Maybe at the same time. And the fourth characteristic is that it can be shared and it can be brought on. That mystic experiences can be induced through certain types of action, certain types of behavior, certain types of willingness. We can actually bring on the mystic states again. And when we do, they can be cultivated from time to time to time to time. So the work that we do here in Qigong, in Recovering the Way, this type of work is a work that builds upon itself and gives us the tools to enter in that sort of a mystic state on our own. Okay. Well, thanks for listening to that. So let's do a little of the Tai Chi, okay? The Tai Chi easy. And We're going to do a Tai Chi easy, simple form. I don't have the music going right now, but that's okay. We're going to do it moving side to side. If you want to do it moving back and forth, that's fine. If you want to do it still, that's fine. I'm kind of going to do it moving side to side. Excuse me. So going to open, weight on one foot, opening. Now lifting. And we're going to do harmonizing yin and yang. Let's do that again, okay? And what I'm concerned with here is really staying in that state of balance, that state of harmony, finding those mystic attributes against the world that we normally experience, and feel the chi kind of moving. I'm going to do it again. This is not about doing it correctly. This is about doing it and experiencing it. And this is going to be the last one of parting the wild horse's mane. And we're going to do brush knee, sen chi. We turn the ball over. And push. Here we don't turn it over, just push down. It took me so long to get this move. And we're going to layer a little something on this one. We're going to keep doing it. So let's reach back and pick up some new idea and push out the old stuff. Dropping what I think I know, reaching back and bringing in some of that ineffable, noetic, and temporary stuff. And one more time each side. And we're going to move on now to cutting the path to clarity, also known as repelling or repulsing the monkey. And Tai Chi will do what would come naturally anyway, and it's kind of then work with that. As we turn our shoulders, it's natural for one arm to come back, right? And it's a little bit of a parabolic, okay? A little bit of a parabolic that the hand will come in toward the head and then out. As like a comet when it goes around the sun. It comes close, whoosh, and then off. And here's one that we know we're exercising when we're doing it, right? We know it because this takes effort. this will be the last one. And the hand that's back will now swoop down and keep going around. And as it comes up, we're then into cloud hands. And cloud hands is a real hybrid because it is a move that really lets us experience the Qi, and it is true Tai Chi, but it's not hard. And when I say not hard, well, it's not hard for God to make all the oceans evaporate into the clouds. It's in the nature of things. It is really the most powerful energy that there is. But as we experience it, there's a sense of fluidity, a sense of rest, a sense of calm. And take a moment and look through your fingers and watch the world pass by. With all of that stuff about the corona and the this and the stop and the whatever, at this moment, here, now, for this time, between us, our body, our hands, we can say, we will rest and be balanced. And guess what? This is real medicine. This is strong medicine for building our immunity, for strengthening our constitution, for improving our blood flow, improving our breath, our resistance. And we're going to do this now 3 times each side quietly. So you fill in what needs to be filled in. And hands then crossing back in front for our final series of gathering heaven and earth. And the last one. And as we come down, we're going to come to a rest. Let the shoulders drop, let the elbows drop, and the hands as if they're being held up by a puppeteer. And drop the tail. And see what you can do to relax for 3 breaths. One. Great. And now, weight coming onto one foot. And as our hands come up, as they descend, let them level around the top of the head. And just spend a moment seeing if you can sense some energy around the top of the head. There are points, and I'm going to name one called Do 20, which is the meeting point of 100 streams. And whether you feel it or not, this is working. And we're going to trace down now through the top of the forehead, center of the forehead, third eye, the nose, cleft in the palate, the divot of the chin, the mental of the chin, under the chin, larynx, intersection of clavicle and sternum, down the front of the sternum. We're now coming down what is called the Ren channel, the conception vessel. And hands going to sweep around to the back and noticing the area around the kidney, and then bring that forward, bring it forward, and we're going to end with thumbs in the navel and relax. And the work is over, the Qigong is over, but the practice is not over. This is a time to drift. This is the payoff. No more work, no more gong, no more mysticism, no more anything. And just drift. So on the mental, spiritual, and physical level, just as in heaven, earth, and life, they are united and all as one. Thank you for joining us today. I look forward